Welcome everybody. There aren't many good reasons to be inside on such a beautiful spring evening, but trust me, we have a very good reason to be inside this evening, which is to hear one of our fellows, Pauchi Sasaki, talking about her latest work. I am, I think, especially happy to be here because I've waited a long time for this, because Pauchi was a fellow at the Institute back in 2019 to 20. She arrived late for a very good reason. She came with a baby, and she left early for a very bad reason, which was COVID. So we really wanted to have more of her, and so here she is again this year. Let me tell you something about her in case you don't know. She started off with a BA in Communication Studies from the Catholic Pontifical University, and then she did a whole range of musical studies, which I won't try to summarize, but in performance, in composition, in electronic music, in klezmer, violin for a time, in South America and in North America. And she was a recipient of the Rolex Mentorship Award, where she was mentored for 2 years by Philip Glass. And in fact, as I know from a spectacular article in the Greek newspaper just last month, she will be going to Athens next month to perform some of her work there. She's a figure who has been acclaimed internationally for her film music, notably the score for Melina's 2020 film, Canciones sin Nombre, but for many other works as well. She's had numerous commissions, numerous performances on both sides of the Atlantic. Of the works that I've heard, my favorite is Gamma 15, which is I remember when you arrived and I saw you unpacking the suitcase for the sound dress. I don't know whether it was number 2 or 3 at that point, and thinking, this is extraordinary stuff, but what's it going to sound like? And then when I heard Gamma 15, I thought, this is the most beautiful music, really lovely. So she's going to talk to us this evening about her latest composition, working on her latest composition, which is an opera. And she's going to take us through the creative process, and I think she's going to play along the way. So that's quite enough from me. Pauchi, going to hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. This is very beautiful for me. I will start performing one short piece as an exercise, okay? Let's see how it goes. Okay. So I have here a question for you. Take like just 1 second to think what kind of images came to your mind. Did you see a space? Did you see a person? Did you see where did you go? No, and if someone is ready, just tell to all of us what did you where did you travel? Deep sea. Mm-hmm. Another image. Ah, sand, desert. Uh-huh. Two places with no boundaries. That's the common, no? The common place. So, this piece was my first piece dedicated to the stars. Yes? And was part of my first multimedia work, big, large format work called Muru back in 2012. So, let's see. So, this was the image. I was on the piano, and the image that was accompanying this piece was this beautiful moment where this creature wanted to become one with the stars, no? So again, I think we were right, no? Katarina and Nikita, a space with no boundaries, no? So with this example, my point is that we can communicate ideas through music. There is something is not so literal, not so precise, but there is a sensation or an idea that gets communicated on the way through music. And something that helps me understand my artistic process is my name. I am Peruvian Japanese, but my mom was born and raised in Japan. And she thought I was going to be the last of the 4 daughters. I am the 3rd one. She thought I was going to be the last one, so she gave me her name. So I will go old school here. So this is my name, which in Japanese kanji you can have different phonetics. In my mother, she uses sho as shoko with another letter, but she just gave me 1 letter, so and she didn't give me the sound of sho, she gave me the sound of now. And what this describes, my mom says that this you can see like a stove inside a house, no? So what do you think are these things up here? If you are cooking something inside a house, what do you think is coming out from the house? Smoke, vapor, something ungraspable, no? So the thing is that for me, my letter helps me understand how art works, because we have an essence, no? Like something abstract, and then we artists have to find a shape that will be the home or the capsule of this essence, no? So I go backwards. And so my mother says that one of these of its meanings is spirituality, no? So what comes out from the matter, no? Beyond matter. So in this sense, following this thought, I want to explain through this idea how I make music, and especially the creative process of my first opera called Artemis. And so I will go through the creative process of this opera that is a multi-platform project. It's not only for one space, it's like a multi-platform. And this opera focuses on the relationship between the female body, metal technology, and power. This opera is inspired by NASA's program Artemis, a space mission that will bring the first woman to the moon surface in 2025, 56 years after the first man-moon landing. The opera Artemis represents the archetype of the promise of technological gender equality in the 21st century, as the first woman on the moon would be an act of empowerment, a symbolic validation of the spaces and disciplines in which women can thrive. The journey of the woman to the moon didn't start with the announcement of this particular space mission. This is a journey of centuries, if not millennials. In this opera, this historical future event is interpreted as a collective journey, as a timeline of many women pursuing knowledge and the stars. Usually, we tend to analyze music through the parameters of pitch and rhythm, but in my case, I express my thoughts through sound and music through the parameters of time and space. In my creative process, I use images of spaces to express abstract ideas, and most importantly, as a container of thoughts and sensations. By using a poetic image as the basis of a composition, the work will inevitably be framed by a set of temperaments and boundaries, assuring an aesthetic consistency throughout sections in a piece. A poetic image also provides information about what is inside this abstract space and the behavior and the interaction of the elements within this space. So for example, if I decide that I will create a performance or a composition about a room filled with honey, so I won't be walking like this, no? So the piece will feel more like this, no? Like, I am in a place full of honey, and everything that happens in this space will have a gentle and subtle resistance, no? So that's why in my creative process, I take the longest time I take in creating the subjective space, so that has its own rules. And once I have a clear idea, so then I start to compose. My first explorations with the use of poetic images as an artistic tool started through the three black and white analog photographic series. Teísmo, Zen philosophy in tea ceremonies. This was the first tea house built in Latin America. This was in my grandparents' house in Lima. Subjective spaces. Then we have here subjective spaces where this was an old casona in the historical center of Lima, where I spent 6 months, like almost on a daily basis, working with impaired people, young people, working on a performance. But I started to have this strong relationship with spaces. And the last picture here, I was so scared when I was in the lab with all the chemics, because I didn't understand how this happened. I am here, but you know, this door is there, and I am like at least 7 meters behind. But somehow I was able to compose this image, and then I understood that I could inhabit these subjective spaces, and I started a series of self-portraits. So This process was then transferred to the field of music through a series of site-specific performances produced from 2006 to 2012 in underground garages, public bathrooms, abandoned industrial factories, galleries, streets, even in the rainforest. The first site-specific performance was called Cuarto Blanco, that was actually in the same space that Melina shot her movie. Yes, Melina was present in this concert. And then this Cuarto Blanco, the name in Spanish is a white room. And I chose that name as a statement of the subjective direction of the overall project. So here you can see different site-specific performances in different situations. But I wanted to share with you the very first poster. Because this graphic depicts a garden filled with trees, each composed of human organs, representing the in-out dichotomy of space. So what I did with this gallery was to assign like parts of the body, of functions of the body into different spaces as a way to acknowledge that they are organic beings, like there is a life within the spaces, no? So I got used to the to creating sonic experiences through my interaction with spaces. I got used to reading possible trajectories, possible narratives, transitions, interactions, moods, the life within the spaces. At the end of this process that lasted about 7 years, I understood that despite the fact we perceive a building or a photograph as a static object, there is something that evolves in time. There is a process. I understood that we experience space which is considered to be static through the parameter of time, so as well as music. No? So that's how I embraced space as a musical parameter and also as my score. Later on, in 2013, when I decided to start my another era, like the site-specific performances lasted 7 years, and then I decided to start Gamma, I was asked to shoot a live music video with French videographer Vincent Moon. At that moment, I was totally immersed in electroacoustic music, so my first impulse was to bring my pedal and other effects with me. We drove all the way to Pachacamac Temple, and when we arrived, I realized that I was not going to be able to perform all my machines because there are no electric outlets in ancient temples. So it's like try imagining like supposedly in the Parthenon will be a socket or something. No, it was very dumb from me, and I ended up performing a solo journey through the temple, playing my acoustic violin. And although I didn't succeed with my original plan, this video was a life-changing experience because it made me realize that I wanted to keep making music in interaction with spaces, but I needed to figure out a way to move and to be able to produce electroacoustic music at the same time. No, so I then So then I went back to Mills College, where I was studying my MFA in electronic music, and started to brainstorm. And this was my first prototype, which months later became my first speaker dress. The Speaker Dress No.1 consists of a wearable sound sculpture built with 100 speakers, 6 amplifiers, a portable sound processor, and microphones. In this project, technology is approached as an extension of human gesture. In this sense, the SD aims to find new narratives, questioning the relationship between the performer and music making. Instead of using electronic devices, external devices, as interfaces to generate interactions, the SD or speaker dress turns the performer, in my case herself, into an instrument by transforming the performer's movement and voice and data into a sound source. So for example, the first speaker dress, the the sound palette I chose was the reading of the space with a contact mic. So all the performance was me wearing the dress, like interacting with the boundaries of the spaces, like the walls, the objects, and everything was like almost like auscultar, like looking like through a microscope, like discovering the spaces through a microscope of sound, we can say. So this is an example then of a composition made for the SD1. As you can tell in this picture, it's in the nature of the sculpture to be used inside specific situations with great flexibility. But then I wanted also to think a way to interact in a deeper sense with the space. So I decided to code this max patch where I can pull up real-time data from the website, from the internet, and play with the parameters of how is the wind in this specific desert in that time, the weather, the humidity, the temperature, and also something very important about this desert is the vientos paracas, which are very famous. So I also played a lot with the parameter of wind speed. And then in 2016, I received a commission from flutist Claire Chase to design and build the SD2. Since her performance of the flute was the inspiration for the sculpture, I wanted to visually integrate air into the design of the SD2. This visual manifestation was achieved by the design of an accessory, a mask with several tubings connected to a purse that emanated negative ions, becoming an emulation of an artificial lung system. This artifact was also the result of meditations about human vulnerability and how we rely more and more on technologies for survival. The aesthetic result was a hybrid creature, half machine, half human, walking in a new world and unknown territory. So in Gamma 15 piece for 2 speaker dresses, I made use of the graphics core and open work format. Because as you can tell, we are not tied to each other through time. Times are independent here, but I decided to make create a notation that integrated sound and movement notation with technical cues, using as space but not time as the unit of the score. So here, I did some research, and here in 1735 we have these scores for dance, and then we also have these attempts to notate multimedia performances from early 20th century, from Bauhaus. And I came up with this, my own version, where I can indicate the lighting, the trajectories, and the tech. This is the tech for those who are familiar. So this is a headset, then portable mic sender, then goes to the booth. Then in the mixer, then I can go to the laptop and process with max MSP, and then it goes back to the dress through in-ear monitor system. And then this is the score. So as you can tell, we have here the cues, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the thing is that each time we do it, we perform, the time will be variable, but once we arrive to the spaces, the person at the booth, who also is considered a musician, that has also its own score, will trigger different cues from the patch that was pre-programmed. And this demanded a lot of process. It's not like you can hand this kind of score and from out of the blue. So you need to spend time together and develop the own language of the piece, because I really wanted gibberish to be the language, something very primitive that doesn't make reference to any cultural background. And then it was very flexible. We were able to perform in several venues like Ojai Festival, Walt Disney Hall here, in different settings. This was in Berlin. So all the levels of language developed for Speaker Dress No.1 and Speaker Dress No.2, the corporal, the sonic, and the visual identities had a very organic process. But when I started the third installment of the project, I decided to take the time to reflect and analyze the body of work. So I wanted to understand what the dress meant to me and organize my ideas. And that's when I got this fellowship the first time. And in 2019, I decided to dive into research focused on the relationship between women, metal, and power. So when we shared the stage with Claire at the kitchen on the premiere, we had a very strong sensation that we were wearing like armors, like we will make jokes like, oh, I feel so powerful now. There was an empowering sensation to it, and not only because our bodies were able to scream like literally, but because of the material we were wearing, metal. The Speaker Dress No.1 and 2 incorporated more than 100 speakers each, and every individual speaker is surrounded by a small metal frame. So as all the speakers are assembled together and wrap the performer's body, the dresses resemble metal armors. Metal is synonym of for empowerment in many ways. Since ancient times, metal has given power and prestige through currency, war, armors, and weapons. It also gave social mobility through dowry and matrimonial compensations. Metal is also the element of deep transformation, not only socioeconomic and political transformations, but spiritual. For sculptor Tom Joyce, curator of the exhibition Striking Iron, The Art of African Blacksmiths, metal is also a great vehicle of memory and heritage. If metal is a material that communicates memory, what is the message we have to unveil here? And in relationship to the SD project, which is the heritage of women wearing metal, what can a metal dress tell us about women's history? I started to search for examples of representations of women wearing metal throughout Western history. Unfortunately, I only found a very small number of cases. Historically, Western women were not allowed to socially wear metal. And the first example is Joan of Arc, who might be one of the most famous women wearing metal in Western history. During the 15th century, the concepts of metal, power, and woman were not a good combination in the eyes of religious authorities. Among other political accusations, she has been deemed a heretic for wearing metal male armors. She was executed by burning at the stake for the crime of cross-dressing. The power of metal, the power of this material, was of exclusive use of men. And in times such as Joan's, in which modesty is inscribed in the feminine, a masculine attire on a woman was considered basically a sin. And I want you to now feel the difference between this and this. You can tell the energy, no? Here there is a lot of vulnerability, femininity, and then we have here like I can eat the world, no, kind of energy, no, very different. Of course, she was burned at the stake. This was the kind of image people wanted to see, no? And and then this idea was used later on as an argument, but it's funny, no? Like in the world, what women can do is to buy stamps. No, very funny. And then we have another example. My second example is found in the movie Metropolis from 1927 by Fritz Lang. The character in the picture is called Maria, a woman that originally personified the emotive and spiritual dimensions of humankind, like the ideal image of a woman, no? But once she became a woman built entirely out of metal, she of course transformed into a demonic spirit, a dark heart, and this false Maria was described as the irrational, destructive side of the emotions and the soul. Like this, you know? And then we have this beautiful example, Paco Rabanne's collection of 12 unwearable dresses from 1966. The innovative construction and unconventional use of material epitomize the exploratory and experimental sensibility of much of the 1960s fashion scene. Nonetheless, this collection of dresses made of metal was categorized as avant-garde, as a subversive and cutting-edge project. Press said subversive. We can observe in all three examples that the relationship between woman and metal has been polemic throughout history, always provoking social tension. In the case of Joanne, she was executed by burning at the stake. False Maria was portrayed as a devil, and Paco Rabanne wasn't condemned for his metal collection, but his project was categorized as subversive. Actually, the name of the collection, 12 Unwearable Dresses, speaks volumes about metal not meant to be worn by women. Why it is so controversial and subversive for women to wear metal? Perhaps we need to consider the fact that metal has always symbolized power, a right from which women have long been socially and symbolically neglected. Which is the power? Which is the metal today? Someone can tell me, just guessing. Of course. Look, we have this idea, no? Contraposition of what a woman should look like, and this other version. But at the same time, these two beings are the same one. So we come up to this other idea, the cyborg, which is two different beings in one, but in the realm of technology. The Speaker Dress project reflects on the current relationship between women and metal, while also exploring how human vulnerability is now manifested through the dependence on technologies for survival. This project echoes a reality and most likely a future where technology has become an extension of the human body, an extension of ourselves. In this sense, the Speaker Dress turns the performer into a new hybrid being, a kind of human cyborg. From Greek mythologies to sci-fi movies, humans have expressed their primal necessity to create hybrid beings, to create semi-god or semi-monstrous creatures. Why do we have the need to incorporate another half into our narratives? Is that other half something that completes us? These new creators are a response to our need for the supernatural, the mystery, and the unknown. What would be the current hybrid we are looking for? For following Donna Haraway's ideas, one of the most influential postmodern feminist writing on the body to date, this project incorporates her cyborg myth. Bodies represent cybernetic organism, hybrid compounds of techno-organic embodiments and textuality. There is now a possibility for women to rewrite this techno-organic relationship. As Kate Cregan mentions in her book, The Sociology of the Body, Mapping the Abstraction of Embodiment, computers, the internet, and the integration of medical technologies with the human body allow women to use them also to their own end. To that extent, cyborg bodies are bodies beyond patriarchal constraints of sex and gender, since technology goes beyond any categorization of gender. Also, Haraway presents technology not as an enemy, like it was portrayed by early representations of the human-technology relationships, like in this case, in Modern Times from Charles Chaplin, or Metropolis itself. Instead, she sees technology as an opportunity to free women, going beyond any categorization of gender. And now, following this idea, our relationship with technology, it is already part of our lives. We say hello and I love you more through a cell phone than in person, and of course this idea of cyborg sounds so far away, like from the 80s, from these sci-fi movies, but really we already are cyborgs. We can't live without these things anymore. If we walk without this, we could get lost. We also are dependent of medical machines inside our bodies. We already are in that process. So, but what's the relationship we are building with technology, So, for example, in Metropolis, there is this fear, The message is this fear that that is old, since the machines appeared, that we will be slaves from technology, And then we have this. It is not only about work. It is about our soul. We are giving up our power to technology, So we humans are deciding to give this robot, for example, the power to be someone more enlightened than us. In this case, they believe that this robot has infinite wisdom, because has all the writings by memory in the chip. And this is not joke. So then we have this example from a friend, Robbie Thompson, from the UK. He built robots and put on the stage, and then you go to see an opera by robots. So what kind of relationship I wanted to build with my production and development of technology? I don't believe on automated programming. I believe more in technology that helps us extend human gesture, because there is not something that will always define humanity is gesture. All the nuances, all the erratic ways we express ourselves, that's something that we have to take care of. So when I decided to design interfaces, I always had that parameter in mind, that the machine has to be has to serve to the human and body expressivity. So society has imposed control over women. Now that we are talking also about power, has imposed control over women through a variety of mechanisms, such as fashion, and this fashion can predetermine a woman's behavior. Like this looks like so painful. We have this for so many centuries. And of course, foot binding tradition from China, like it is basically a torture. There are readings that explain how the smell of the putrefacto, like putrefact smell of these feet were like erotic for Chinese men somehow. And then here we have the cage cryoline, and this is contemporary but feels now a little bit old-fashioned, And then thinking about that, like how can I come up with this idea of woman and power, And I started to think, how should I design my third speaker dress? So I designed this. and she will wear it because I need somebody super strong and well trained to wear more than 20 kilos. So it is a dress that constrains movement, that limits your movement to down and up just vertically. You cannot move around. So we had early this month, last month, a workshop with a dancer, and we figured out that we need to develop other kind of choreography. So she started to do exercises of fingers, and then neck, and then facial muscles. So because you need to see, you cannot just do like this, no? You have to find other ways to express within the limitation, no? And then, okay, we are running out of time. And this parameter of time, I explored more in my project Gamma, and I will summarize it as slowness, expansion, and relative time. So when you speak slow to somebody, you create a kind of expectation, and you are able to somehow stretch time. No? Can you feel? No? And that's something that also happens in music with melodies. Melodies, you can expand if you ta 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 tang 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 tang. I stretched, no? So this slowness has the capacity to make time more subjective, and also to create a sense of awareness, no? And then the expansion, the parameter of time, for example, who loves opera here? Okay, we have many opera lovers. So which is like the peak moment of an opera? When the soprano endlessly, and you feel like you will explode, and you are, come on, please breathe, no? So this is an example of how you can play with the parameter of time to create a sensation of expansion, no? Like an emotion that doesn't feel in your body, no? So that's another word for that is epiphany. No, to express epiphanic events and epiphanic emotions, I use this parameter of expansion. Like it is almost like when you pour water into a glass, and it's almost coming out the water, and you are no, like that. So, and then relative time. No, subjective time is very important in my work because, for example, when I was very little, I would practice a lot. We are 4 sisters, so you can imagine the house was very noisy, and I wanted to practice like 4-6 hours a day. So what I would do, I locked myself into the toilet with a beautiful reverb, you know, like, hours and hours daily. But what I really loved to do when I was a child was to perform like the very slow movements from Vivaldi and Bach, very slow. And then I got into kind of a trance. And then after hours, I would come up like this from the bathroom, now in another mind song. And then I understood that really time is relative. So I started to compose, like for example in Gamma 10, I decided to compose with relative time. Like I had an ensemble of 7 musicians, and I will put them in 3 groups, and each group will follow the tempo from one leader. No, and all this composition was with simultaneous tempos, and that's only one example. No, also in Gamma, in the piece with Claire Chase, each of us we have kind of our own rhythm and tempo. And then also we have like another example, something fast, and luego, and then something slow. So I also with particular, I wanted to express expansion, like in nature, no? Horizontal. And there is a grid of time there. And then we change from space and we go to a space with no time, with no clock, with no common tempo. It's very difficult for musicians to perform because it's so slow that it's difficult to read the score. Yes. And then I wanted to explain you briefly how these parameters are expressed, especially in gamma, through the design of instruments. I don't have my magic balls here, so I will use only my hands. So this is an instrument that I designed, is old. I designed it back in 2012, and it works with the webcam. No time. And it's inspired, of course, in nature. So this is the this is the electromagnetic fields instrument that it works with a webcam as a sensor, and so I found a way to extend to make music with the movement, with human gesture, no. And then lastly, I am a violinist, so I didn't like this dynamic to go to the computer and then change parameters and then going back to my instrument. So what I did was to create the extended violin with that Arduino Arduino circuit that has integrated sensors and also some switchers and things like that. So I could just change parameters, just extending my own technique of the common technique of the violin. So the idea was to change parameters without having to do this, what I have to do now. Yes. So you can have an idea the parameters that I can change. If I had with me my extended violin, I wouldn't have the need to go here to change parameter. You can have a sense, no? Thank you. So I had more material, but I think we already ran out of time. But I just will show like very fast, and where are we at? So universe have sound, and I am using the temperament of the sound of the universe. The universe sounds like this. And that's something very violinistic, by the way, because violinists, we do glissandos all the time. So that's my motif of the overall opera. Also, that glissando feels like you will go up with a rocket, no? So it goes well with the topic. And for example, in this project, one of the pieces, it is called Universus, and the universe has waves, gravitational waves, when two black holes collide. And then they built very big sensors on Earth, and I downloaded all this data. And then with what we do in music, computer music, we just transform numbers into music. So I transform all that data into this structure, and this will become like the skeleton of this piece. Then I just do a lot of types of glissandos. So, and then I do all kinds of glissandos. And then I have just one thing about glissandos. It's not an ornament. People think glissandos are ornaments, but are not just that, because they are a great tool to depict transformation. For example, I did this score back in 2013. So you can see here, no, like this second measurement, like I can become from a baby to a woman in a glissando, no? So if I am a baby, and then so you can change, no? And then if I want to become an old lady, so the peaks glissandos are not just an ornament, the peaks transformation during time, no? So that's why I put. And then something that I am using for the voices is this idea that it's not one woman that is arriving to the moon. It's many women we are arriving to the moon. And also I have this idea, I love this painting from Mario Osorio, a symbologist from Peru, that there are many ages within a woman. We can be little girls, we can be mature girls, woman, we can be an old woman at the same time. So something I am using a lot is this idea of 3 in 1, like a trinity. So by choosing the right singers, old, this is the old, the grown-up woman, and then the little girl there, no? So that's also a way to put in shape one idea, no? Like there is this idea about three ages or many ages in one person, and I choose the singers. And here another voice. So this is a little girl, but then with this one, which is the recitative, please forget the piano MIDI. This is what we have to deal with musicians when still we don't have money to record. So then here I played with synthetic voice, computerized. So you can have an idea of what options I'm experimenting with. And of course, for all these things like opera, it is very important the work in teamwork. So here are my collaborators, my sister Naomi, then Omar, Juan Carlos, Franklin, and yes, we always work together on big productions. And thank you. It became a little bit late, I'm sorry, it was too long, but maybe we have time for a few questions, no?
Sure. It's not fully formed though. Thank you so much, Pauchi. It was really amazing, really, really profound. I was especially interested in, you talk about, you deconstruct time into something relative, and you transpose it into space, which is fascinating. And something that I kept on thinking about was in the different forms of, I don't know what the word is, expression that you are showing, whether it's sonic music or whether it's choreographed through space or whether it's visual, there's a dimension that's like a story. Like a story also is experienced through time. So there's a sort of arc. And so, and you can sort of detach that from strict boundaries of time, like you can detach music from, a strict score, and still play with the shape of the story through density of elements. So I guess if you're thinking about story that way, I guess I wrote down space, time, sound, and I wonder where you think meaning is situated there. So everything you showed us was it triggers something. And I can tell at least as much that like the mechanism is something to do with the choreography or the density of those elements and the shape that you create. Liberated maybe from time or not, like a story, But I guess I don't understand exactly how you actually produce meaning, in that process, and again, the question is not fully formed, but there's some stuff that you talked about that seems universal, like magically universal, like the glissando. Why is that transformational? Why does that trigger transformational process? I have no idea, but it does. And then there's other stuff that you seem to talk about that seems to be local, like you can give a particular sense, or you can cast a particular idea because of some level of interpretation. So again, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but something about meaning is the question.
Thank you, Johnny. What happens is that I am not so linear. So when I want to express something, it's more like a space. Like the example, for example, a room full of honey. There is no story there. No, there is not a storyline there. Or for example, sometimes it's like a picture, but like a sensation, more like, but that is inspired on something, no? So I am not so focused on describing something literally, but the sensation, again, the three things on top of the house, no? You can understand what is a house, but how that house feels like, no? So I'm more focused on that, no? And on that sensation. Yes, that is not so linear like a story. Mm-hmm. And that reminds me our conversation about evidentials, no? Like the importance of the experience in the message. Sometimes that's more important because that's what brings the meaning to a word, no? Mm-hmm.
Hi, Pauchi.
Hi.
Thank you for that. I might ramble on a little bit too, but I'll try to express myself as best as possible. There's a moment in your presentation where you talked about how the erratic ways we express ourselves we have to take care of. And it was when you were talking about technology as an extension of gesture, which to me it suggested like this kind of focus on uniqueness, on multiplicity, on the variety of kind of human experience. And then you said also you are against automation. Is that kind of, do you see them as the extension of gesture, as a kind of way to resist like the standardization that comes with automation as a kind of maybe optimalization that we see in the world? Is that kind of in your thinking?
Yes, it's a way of ethics, no? Because of course I cannot control what big companies will end up doing, but at the least with the little machines I do, I can develop a ethic. And so my idea was not to give the power, we are so used to give out our power through religion, through so many things. And so I don't want that. So something that I want to keep is the great capacity of humans to be erratic, and also that if you because we always have this fear, not about like a war between machines, and now with ChatGPT, no, and humans. That's from since modern times, from Chaplin, no, that's an idea that is always there. But yeah, I think that we have to develop a way to approach technology more consciously, no, and trying to keep some things like something very human is the erratic nature of our gesture, but also, you know what? We are the only beings that actually survive with a lot of errors. We have a whole discipline called psychology to teach us how to survive and coexist throughout our lives with errors. These machines, they have one little error. The rocket, boom. You know, thousands, trillions of millions of dollars are boom, you know, just one single error. But we are these weird creatures that we handle error like woo, 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 no? So the other day I was like, watching these videos on social media, and there was like this show from North Korea where everybody was like singing like this, like the same very movement, and then all the audience were militaries doing like this. And I was like, I'm so hungry of error. I was like, this doesn't feel human. I need error. No, so that's something also that is part of that ethic that I am. I am not like, please do what I want. No, it's personal, no? Each person has to develop an ethic, and that's something that we have to call the attention. Not to say what to do, but could you please give it a thought? No? What is your conscious decision in the usage of technology, no? Mm-hmm.
Well, good evening, and I apologize for my terrible accent, French accent. So, First, I admire you for your ability to draw a line from the concept you explained and the result, very concrete and very intellectual and very precise and very large in the same time. That is the music. So thanks for that, especially. And my question is about your baby. So you know that the scientists discovered that the brain of the woman changes considerably and forever when they become a mother. So my question is about your feeling of change in your intellect, I dare say, and in your understanding of your musical evolution from this event, the birth you give and so and so. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I was talking to Johnny once that I have one child. He is 3 years and a half old, and as soon as he was born, I felt language differently. Was so weird. And I was talking with a friend who is linguistic, and I was like, well, it's so strange, but I feel like words are changing meaning. It's the same word, but what is going on? Like suddenly, I all these cliche, very cliche phrases started to sound to me very wise. And then, so all these kind of changes, no? What's going on with meaning? And then my friend told me, Pauchi, you discovered evidentials. So there is like there is a way that we can, I think that's why language itself is incomplete. And we have so much misunderstanding in society nowadays, because you have to go through an experience to really understand a word. If you don't go through the experience, you really don't know what you are talking about. It's just a play of logic, like P, then Q, then R. So it becomes like puzzle, you know? But if we want language that has meaning, so it should be based on experience. So there are some languages that in the syntaxis, they point out, I went through this experience, someone very near to me had this experience, or I heard someone had this experience. So there is like a kind of hierarchy in the information, so you know where you are standing up. It's not like I'm standing here and I am talking about something that I really don't know, because my body haven't experienced that. We can have resonance, we can have empathy, but the meanings are very, I felt like there was something strange there, and then something changed in my art practice, because I understood the social function of art. Art brings the experience. Like, for example, the movie from my friend Melina is about a woman that some people steals the baby. And the movie, the acting is so powerful that you feel like you lost the baby. You experience that in your body somehow through good art. And then you understand another level of the word. No? So that's why I felt like when I became a mom, I understood more the social function of art in my work, at the least. No? To make people experience things so they can put an experience to a word, or vice versa. Not just talk using words by itself. No? Like a game. No? Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.